Hey there everybody, Eric from Outer Limitless coming at you today with another knife video. Now in today's video we're going to take a look at two knives from Kabar Becker. We're going to take a look at them side by side, look at what each one of these has to offer, and see if you had to make the choice between the two of these, which one you would choose. And in this comparison we're going to take a look at the Kabar Becker BK7 and the Kabar Becker BK5. Now neither of these knives are brand new on the market. They've been around for quite a long time. I'm not exactly sure when these first came out. I tried to do a little bit of research and couldn't quite find the information. So if anybody can weigh in on when these knives were originally released, I would appreciate that. If you could please leave some comments, that would be helpful. But with that said, these are definitely two great quality and capable blades. They are very relevant still today. I think the BK7, in a lot of people's opinion, is one of the finest, I'd say, survival or maybe even considered tactical blades. And then for me, this Becker BK5 really has a lot of features that make this an ideal blade if you like a larger knife. I mean, both of these are in the 7-inch blade class range. Obviously have the exact same handles, very similar features in a lot of ways, the same steel, but are also quite different at the same time. So you might choose one of these over the other. And so I'm just going to show you some of the pros, cons, features, differences, similarities, so that you can kind of weigh in on your buying decisions. Now the Becker BK7, as I had mentioned, is very renowned for its overall capabilities. A lot of people very much like it. I do too. I mean, I really do like this blade. I love the size of the handle and the overall comfort for me. Now you'll notice on both of these blades I've done the same thing where I've stripped the coating. This was originally a coated blade, and same with that BK5. So on both of them I have stripped the coating and I've changed out to these micarta handle scales for a little bit more traction. I basically set these up the exact same way for this comparison so that it would be very apples and apples. But the original scales on here are a Grivery scale, which are a little bit on the slick side, and they don't have quite as much weight. So I have added a little bit of handle weight to both of these. Not to say that it balances it any better or worse, it just kind of changes the overall balance point on both of these blades equally for the comparison here. But you know, my main, I'd say, gripe with this BK7 is first the thumb ramp, and second, lack of a finger choil. I think you lose a little bit of control on a blade of this size when you don't have a finger choil, and that's where the BK5 kind of has the advantage. But this BK7 overall is a very high quality and capable blade. And now for that BK5. Again, as I had mentioned, some definite advantages. So where my gripe on the BK7 was the thumb ramp, this does not have a thumb ramp. And then my gripe on the BK7 was the lack of finger choil. And you can see here that does have a nice generous finger choil. This particular blade was also coated, so I have stripped that off, and also had those Grivery scales, which I've swapped out for the micarta, again adding a little bit more handle weight. So at least at this point I've pretty much kind of evened the playing field with both of these knives by setting them up the same exact way. Now on both of these knives, with the particular patina that I chose, I tried to give it somewhat of a camouflage look. So the pros and cons of doing so: obviously the blades blend in pretty good to the ground, so they are just a little bit hard to see. But obviously that helps to minimize the overall, I guess, visibility with these large blades. I mean, for tactical purposes, you know, or anything where you want to maintain sort of like a low profile, having them kind of subdued is a good thing. But again, just makes it just a little bit difficult to see those things when you set them down. Now we'll get to a little bit of work here. I mean, generally speaking, I very much like a camp knife in this overall blade size range. I'm going to use both of these a little bit just to do a little bit of digging and pulling and prying and sort of working on this wood here. It's a touch punky. You know, you can kind of see this stuff's been sitting here for a while, but at the same time should make for some interesting work. I mean, I would tend to dig at this quite a bit to start getting some kindling and wood for a fire. This is certainly good for burning, so I would use a knife like this a lot of times to kind of start processing and gathering wood. So anyway, we'll start with the BK7, just some chopping into this, seeing how it's gonna feel and overall depth and penetration and the ability to kind of dig into this wood. You know, a lot of times I'll use a knife like this to pry things away and start working on it. So that's where, you know, knives like this are very useful and capable. You know, kind of starting to pry and hack this stuff off and gather myself from firewood. This really works pretty well. So anyway, just gonna stay at it for a second here. Just kind of getting in there and prying this stuff away. Looks very nice. Kind of swap sides here. I mean, you can see that blade has no problem just getting in there. I mean, this is kind of child's play for a blade like this. I'm really gonna have no problems with my edge, or no worries or concerns about bending or breaking this, especially with wood like this. Has absolutely no problem. So overall, feels very good with the BK7. I mean, I always typically use a lanyard just for some additional kind of grip, but it feels nice, good control, nice weight. You know, I can cut and sort of hack into here if I want, take some nice chunks of wood. But I'll do some chopping a little bit later. That was just kind of the BK7 on some prying. So we're gonna do the same thing here with the BK5. Now I can tell you already that this has a little bit less, maybe I'd say forward blade weight feel to it, but we'll still get to work here. I mean, there is a trade-off between blade weight and then the ability to like really wield the blade, and you know, this feels very wieldy, more so than the BK7, but certainly less overall blade weight. So anyway, let me kind of dig in and pry in here and work some of this away. Just gonna swap sides. Getting in there. Let's be a little more careful with my aim. Now, interestingly, I'm going to show you something here, which I think is one of my first things to note, and it's quite interesting. So let me reposition the camera, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so looking here at this BK5, as I pull and pry, look how much flex there is on that blade. I mean, overall, you can see that thing just really flexing. And so, you know, even though this starts out as a full 3/16 of an inch, that unsharpened swedge at the top kind of reduces a little bit of the mass. I mean, that's not a bad thing that it flexes, but it's really inhibiting my ability to make this wood pop because I'm losing leverage because the blade is bending on me. So let me find the BK7. I'm going to put it in that same crack, and I'm going to do the same sort of flex on there to see what happens. Okay, so now this is the BK7, and I'm putting it in there, and you'll see the blade's not really flexing. I mean, it is a little bit, but not nearly as much as that BK5. And you'll see that it just works better to like continue to pry at the wood and really sort of pop it off there. So, I mean, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing for the BK5, but definitely, I mean, if you look at the spine of this BK7 where it's that full 3/16 of an inch all the way down, it definitely adds to the overall mass and strength of the blade. Now, in terms of stabbing, that BK7, you end up with that guard and also the ramp. So, you know, stabbing is a pretty solid overall lockup. The ramp definitely with that jimping does kind of hurt your thumb, but if you have to do it, you have to do it. So, I mean, having the ramp there helps with that just sort of lock up and then, you know, minimizing the potential to slide. Definitely feels like a nice solid stout tip. Like, I don't feel like I'm nervous about digging into this wood, like I'm gonna snap my tip at all. So that's a good thing. I mean, just shows the stout quality. And I mean, I can't feel any real like flex. Even if you look, I'm like kind of like prying distinctly on that tip. And I mean, no real signs of flex or potential for damage. So that's the BK7. Now on the BK5, no thumb ramp. You do have a nice smooth spot on the top, and then pretty decent. I mean, these Becker handle scales automatically make a little bit of a finger guard, and you know, digging in there and kind of working the tip here. Now at this point, the tip feels pretty good, pretty sturdy. You know, working on the wood here, get some nice penetration, but then again, see, that's that flex. I can feel that flex right there. I mean, this blade just wants to bend, which again, I mean, the bending is really not a huge deal because it's going to prevent it from snapping. So that's probably a testament to the overall, you know, heat treat and quality of this steel. This 1095 Crovan from Beckers is very good, but just the stock thickness is the reason why that's bending there, and you lose just a little bit of leverage. So anyway, just kind of working at the wood here and feeling that tip. I mean, I feel as though this tip is maybe dainty enough that I could potentially break it off if I wasn't too careful and I got into something that was really strong and sturdy and then, you know, penetrated too deep. But it's really the flex issue here, I think, that's kind of cutting this ability down and reducing it from the overall ability of the BK7. Okay, so here I have, like, you know, a fallen limb, has some branches on it. Let's say I was going to process this for some firewood. This is the BK7. You know, just the ability to kind of clean this thing up. And is this like completely dead? It's completely dead, and it is very dry. So, I mean, I feel like as much as this stuff is cutting, it is pretty much like snapping. But overall, I mean, you get an impression from how it is to work with a blade, and you know, the comfort and how it feels in the hand. And you know, I'm very comfortable overall with this BK7. It just has a very nice weight and like a good control, like just the way it feels to like attack the wood, and your overall like ability to hit your target. It just has that like really nice feel. The more I use this, the more I appreciate it. That's what I find about the BK7. And you know, overall, I mean, just a real nice blade geometry and shape and size. I mean, if it had that finger choil, that to me would make this literally like the ultimate blade. But even without the finger choil, I mean, nice and comfortable, good ability to do the work. Thumb ramp's a little bit uncomfortable, but overall, pretty nice. And now for the BK5. I mean, again, just kind of clearing off these logs here and doing some work. Nice overall control with the blade. Feels good in the hand. I don't know if you can hear it, but it makes kind of like a whipping noise with how overall light this is. I don't think it's doing quite the same work per stroke because it is lighter. I mean, I can control it pretty good, and it has a beautiful edge. So, you know, it certainly slices nicely through the wood and can really do some work, but not quite as efficient as that BK7. This is maybe a good branch to show the two. So I've already taken, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 strikes. Now this branch here is the same exact size. Let me get that BK7 real quick and we'll try that too. Okay, so now this branch here, the BK7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I mean, that went right through. So BK7, a little more mass, definitely cuts through a little bit better. So again, I have a couple of very similar sized logs here. So on this one, I'm going to use the BK5, try to get myself through here and hopefully not tick myself off this rock. But anyway, let's go for it. Nice overall penetration of the blade. Let me use a little bit of a V attack here. Let me kind of reposition, attack it from here. A couple of nice thwaps. I'm getting close. Just kind of finish this thing off. I could break it off, but so let me do it all with the knife. Just kind of going careful as to not accidentally damage the blade. So anyway, not too bad. Feels pretty good overall. Nice cuts and pretty clean. If you look at the quality and like actual clean cut of that, nice edge. So just not a lot of mass. So now for this BK7, gonna do the same thing. Very similar size. Oh, bam! This thing just bites deep. But anyway, very similar size log. Use the V. Chunk this thing out. Again, getting down to the end here. Trying to be careful not to accidentally strike that rock. And let's just finish it up. Pretty easy. So again, very clean, nice clean cuts. That's worth showing you how clean that cut is. And I'm not trying to be biased here. I honestly thought the BK5 was going to outperform the 7 on camp tasks. And so far, boy, am I wrong. So these are the cuts from the BK5. And you can see that is like really kind of the initial cut. So you can see the depth of that first cut and the cleanliness of how like smooth that top cut is there. Well now, comparatively, that is the BK7. I mean, look at that, man. That is just like silky saw smooth on that cut. I mean, look at that. That is just sweet. So, I mean, just a testament to the edge geometry, overall blade heft, and then showing you the other side of the log. I mean, there you go. You can see that real nice clean cut there, and like a few of them. I mean, some of these cuts are just pristine. So pretty impressed. Again, the more I use that BK7, the more impressed I get. Now, unfortunately, as I look around, I don't have very good wood to give you a batoning test, and this might be my best piece. And I don't have a saw with me, and the only thing I have to get this going is my knives. So at this point, oh, I'm sliding. I might as well get to work with my BK7 and really chunk us off a piece. and then I'll just use this to baton. I'll split this down and compare the two knives. So give me a few minutes here to do some work, and I'll get us a nice like 4-inch log. Look at that. Check this out. Look at that grub. That thing is lucky. I totally almost just chopped him up and barely missed him. But that guy can't be too happy at life right now. So anyway, let me keep working at this, and then we'll baton it down. So this most certainly is not my finest setup here, but this is what I got, and so this is what we do. Try to get this kind of level. So first I'm going to split this the long way. I'm going to use the you know what, fuck it, use the BK5, as I just got to some chopping with the 7. So let's split this down this way. I have a oversized, ridiculous baton here, but let's get this going. This is some sort of pine. Broke my baton. That's hard as nails. This isn't going very well. Let me get this knife back. Oh yeah, I'm fucked. It's coming though. There we go. Yeah. All right. Well, so if I did that with the 5, let's just give it another go with the 7. I'm going to move it over just a tiny bit so it's in a slightly different spot. And let's see how it goes. Equally hard. So the thing about these micarta scales is you can baton them and it doesn't really damage them. So if you have to like even out the knife, now you'll notice that right away my baton basically blew apart on this BK5, and I wonder if that has to do with that unsharpened swedge just driving at the top of that baton and absolutely splitting it, because I mean this is the same piece of wood. Granted, it has a little less leverage on it now, but I mean I'm wailing on this thing and not having too much trouble. So anyway, let's keep splitting this down. Hopefully I'll make it all the way through with this BK7. And I mean, I am fucking smashing this thing. I'm actually wearing a blister into my hand right now. That's how hard I'm hitting this. So anyway, let's just finish this off. Ow. I don't know if I can. Big chunk of skin. And we're through. So anyway, that was the BK7. Actually, it was both of them. But now moving on, split this down again. Going back to this BK5, split it this way. Oh man, this thing just doesn't want to go through this wood. I'm not even going to do it. Let's go back to the 7. Again, I won't go in the same crack I just started. I'm going to move it over. So much better penetration right away. I mean, look at that. Right away, thing actually goes down and through the wood. I mean, the BK7 wants to do the job. I'm shocked at these results. I really am. I thought this BK5 was going to be as much of a knife, if not more, than this BK7, but not yet, that's for sure. So I don't know, I'm done with batoning, but that pretty much shows you pretty much right away what the results will be. So at this point, let's at least carve some of this down. So I'm going to use both knives to kind of process this a little further. Here I have the BK5. Just going to use it to peel back some of this bark and then kind of start to like plane out this this side here, and maybe prepare it to try some feathers. So continuing to plane it down. Now this is where the BK5 should outperform the 7. I mean, this wood is not the most conducive to getting curls to stick, but in terms of the like carvability and like fine detailed work, it's about the feel of the knife, and this BK5 feels really pretty nice. I mean, I'm able to really find the edge and get on these curls and like really curl them down the wood. Again, I mean, the wood's not the perfect for me, but it's what I got, so I'm going to go with it. And I mean, you can see here that, you know, I'm really able to get some nice thin shavings here. The choil works out pretty well. You don't need it, but the choil, you know, obviously for a blade this length aids in the control. So in this case, I'm going to use it. Now what I like about this knife shape is that you really have a sweet belly, so you can start on that tip and then just ride the blade, you know, all the way down the wood, utilizing that blade just to do all the slicing work for you. So that's the advantage that you have on a knife of this shape. It's kind of that like traditional Japanese tanto design. And so this is really the slicing capability of a knife like this is where it shines. And even though they're not staying on the wood, you can see some of these real nice, fine, thin, paper thin curls, and it feels great in the hand. So for this BK5 is definitely sweet. Now let's switch sides of the wood. I'm going to do the same thing. Just kind of process this and clean it up a little bit, and then start to work. See, I almost naturally reach in and go for the choil, so I had to actually stop myself. I just almost took a full grip of blade there because I'm used to the choil and I prefer it and I like it. So I need to like train myself. And see, look at the little bit of stress. I mean, I know this is subtle, but here my fingers are in alignment. This is a very natural grip. When you grip the knife with a choil, it's very natural and comfortable. Here, I need to grip the knife naturally right there, but now I want the leverage of that ramp, so I'm like stressing, and it does put stress in your hands that you don't get with the choil. So, I mean, again, it's subtle, but that just tells you the difference between these two in terms of the detailed and slicing tasks. But believe me, don't put it past this BK7 to get some real super nice fine curls. And in fact, to be honest with you, I do actually find this edge geometry just a little bit easier than the BK5, like meaning finding that edge and feeling the edge and riding the edge. And you can see that I'm actually doing a better job at keeping these curls on this wood where I didn't before with the BK5. But again, I mean, it's subtle, it's minor, it's just really does do a pretty nice job. I mean, it's not quite as comfortable for me as the BK5, but I can do the work just as well. So both knives are very nice slicers. Now in terms of overall carving ability and, you know, heavy duty slicing and like hogging the wood. Now this wood's been on the ground for a long time. It's pretty hard. but both of these knives are going to have the same task ahead of them. So I'm just trying to give you my impressions and how it feels. You know, overall, the BK5, where it has the finger choil, does allow you to get just a little bit more control if you want. But I also find with these Becker handles, you really don't need the choil. So if you're not, you know, even if you're not using them, you can find that edge and do a pretty nice job, you know, getting into the wood and carving it away. You know, at this point, you can see that once I kind of get down and in there, it's doing a pretty nice job. Pretty easy to find that overall edge geometry, and then the slicing capability of the BK5 with that like swept blade just really does a nice job just carving the wood away, getting into it and just slicing off these nice pieces. So overall, BK5 does a mighty nice job. And now with the BK7, obviously you don't have that finger choil, but you have that thumb ramp, and that also aids in your ability to really get some good control. And in a very similar fashion, overall, nice blade geometry, nice grind angle. Not quite the same type of belly, but this knife will certainly do the work. Has a beautiful slicing capability, gets down and into the wood, and where you see there, thing just gets right to work and does a nice job. Well, so all right guys, there you have it. A real quick look at two quality capable knives from Kabar Becker, the BK5 and the BK7. Now I have to say, after doing that testing, I am quite shocked at the results. I really thought this BK5 was going to give the BK7 a run for its money, but overall, the BK7 was a much better performer, even given some of the things that I thought were going to be a downfall for it. I didn't think the ramp was going to have any real advantage. In fact, I thought it was going to be a disadvantage. The lack of the finger choil certainly I thought was a disadvantage. The BK5 has that nice swept belly for slicing tasks. I thought was going to do a little bit better than this BK7, but overall the BK7 was a much better performer. Certainly better at stabbing, overall better at chopping, better at batoning. This swedge on the BK5 ultimately was a downfall to it. Now, the weight and overall like mass and feel of the BK7 added in its ability to actually control it and to do some better work on the chopping and clearing tasks, whereas this BK5 was still good, still a great knife, just not quite as good as the BK7. So anytime I have the ability to put two knives side by side and really give them a comparison and a test in this environment is really intriguing, and I very much enjoy doing that. And I hope it helped you. I hope it showed you the difference between these two, and if in any way it helps you to make up your buying decision, I hope that was definitely a help to you. Anyway guys, thanks for stopping by. I hope you like what you saw. I hope you found it a little bit informative. If you like what you saw, please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, thanks for stopping by. Take care now. I'll see you soon.